Hello, and welcome to the latest and greatest edition of the Big D podcast. Before I announce today's special guest, please subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever you want with the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. We've got a lot of fun and excitement coming. We've got a Masters preview coming within the next week or so. So there may or may not be a green shirt involved. I mean, heck, there may even be a green jacket. I know St. Patty's Day was a week and a half ago, but you never know what to expect. So now on the line is a man who, well, brings more entertainment than me at the ballpark. My buddy Ken Cosco. Ken, how things going in Naples this morning?
It's going pretty nice here, D-man. I like it. Certainly beats being in Massachusetts for the month of March, that's for sure.
Yeah, when it's what 50 and now we've got record heat here, right?
Right. I'd rather be sweating than freezing. No doubt about it.
I don't blame you. So Ken does all kinds of events. He's what I would call an entertainment guru. He's a host. He basically is the MC and entertainment guy, DJ for a whole bunch of events. And he and I have been working swing training for the Boston Red Sox at JetBlue Park. Ken's been the DJ while I've been putting on the graphics on the video board, and I will say, Ken, your tunes have gotten the attention of everyone.
Well, I appreciate that. That's the goal. Try to get the Sox fired up to be able to win a game and try to get whatever crowd that we have, the 20%, to be able to get them involved as much as possible. But I would say the most important aspect is just making sure those in the control booth have a lot of fun.
I can attest. So, when was the first time you really? I don't know how many years ago it was. When was the first time you thought about being an MC?
Well, actually, I thought about it probably the week and a half before I did my first event. I never actually thought about DJing until we got a phone call back in high school. I was 14, and my debate coach, who was my mass media teacher, said, "Hey, the sixth grade magnet school is looking for a DJ for a sock hop." So he talked to me and my partner, that was like one of my friends, that was his son, who was the youngest radio jock in the country at the time. And we talked to two of our friends, and between the four of us, we went out about a week and a half later and did the sixth grade sock hop and said, "Hey, this DJing thing is kind of fun. Let's see what we can do with it." So it was a month before I turned 15 years old back in 1989. And at that point, we just ran with it. We started doing events on our own from that September date, and then did our first wedding and following January, first bar mitzvah. It was the following June, but we just kept on rolling from that point on. So it wasn't too long before I started emceeing that I actually thought about emceeing.
Yeah. So, what were your parents' reactions when you decided to try out MCing?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, my father was pretty funny. I used to spend my portion of the earnings in the 3 years that I was in high school at the time on DJ equipment, and he would tell me to absolutely stop wasting my money. It was going to go nowhere. And so he always got mad at me for wasting my money on DJ equipment. And little does he know that, little did he know at the time that when I got to college, I went to college, started college in 92. And between 92 and I would say beginning in 95, I started escalating the events in Massachusetts from Florida. And once I hit the calendar year of 96, I sent out 96 events that year. So I kind of proved to him that this was definitely a viable business. And he jokes with me to this day about how he was always encouraging me to DJ in high school, which we both know is a joke.
Yeah, obviously, when you started DJing, what kind of technological limitations did you face? Because obviously, you didn't have all the internet or the iPads, laptops that everybody
Oh,
uses today. What did you use? Did you use one of those old school 8-track tapes?
I didn't use an 8-track tape. We had one in the house, but I didn't use it. I actually started off, we used CDs, cassettes, and turntables. So we had vinyl, cassettes, and CDs. CDs were just coming out at the time. So we had a whole bunch of like Time Life music for the 60s that was on CD. But besides that, we had vinyl, and the cassettes were the hardest to work with because you had to fast forward and rewind the cassettes to find the point where the song was that you wanted to play. So at least the good news was that we were able to get a cassette deck that would auto scan and find the breaks in the songs, so we could know how forward we had to go to fast forward to get to a specific song in a cassette deck, and it did it automatically. So that was kind of fun because it definitely made us sweat. The moment we played a song, we had to start queuing up another song. Now, if I've got 20 seconds before the end of a song, it's like an eternity. So it's a big difference. Also, the weight of the equipment was substantially heavier back then. We used to bring out coffins, and they'd break your back with 2 turntables and a mixer and CD players. So we had a huge coffin, and sometimes we'd have to take up 2-3 flights of stairs with 2 guys and milk crates full of records. And they would just be crushing you in back-breaking work.
Yeah, don't forget, you were around when the cell phones used to be like this big, and now they're this big.
Oh yeah, I had a bag phone. My first cell phone, I was 17. It was it literally looked like I was holding a purse, and I got that one, and that's how I conducted my business back in 1992.
So I'm trying to think when you went to college in '92, but you actually did not go for being a DJ. What did you go to college for?
Well, at the time, the plan was to just DJ in college, and I was going to graduate with a meteorology degree and become a TV weatherman. And that was eventually what my plan was. And everything with the business just derailed my plan. When I graduated, I have a meteorology degree, but I thought to myself, well, I can ride this DJing thing as far as it'll take me, or I can make like $17,000 a year doing potato reports in Boise, Idaho. And I decided, you know what, let's see where this DJ thing takes me. And I haven't, according to my parents, I haven't had a real job since. This is probably with the Red Sox is the closest to a real job that I actually have had since I was 17.
You could have been a meteorologist at the National Hurricane Center, or playing your own tunes.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. That's for sure. You know, like Windy City Blues when the winds are coming in. I don't think they'd appreciate that much.
No, yeah, especially because we get our fair share of hurricanes down here. So, as your career escalated, talk about some of the roles. Let's talk about how your role has changed as technology's changed.
Sure. Well, I guess the biggest role, the way that it actually has changed is there's less of a focus on music now. You'd say with it being a DJ that you'd be out there and the focus would be music, and it's not. The focus now that we have is more about client services and being almost like a concierge to our clients. I've noticed that a lot of people that are DJs or house DJs, they'll find sound systems and they'll just mix and scratch and they'll just do these digital types of songs. But the thing is that quality comes from what you do behind the scenes. And so for me, I moved from playing music to giving the best in client services, knowing that if someone emails me or makes a phone call to me, I'm going to return that email, a phone call, or message very quickly. And when it comes to the event, I make sure to put my clients at complete ease, a complete peace of mind, because at the end of the day, you could have the reincarnation of Dick Clark show up at someone's wedding, but if they aren't going to give them a level of client services the 18 months leading up to their wedding, then it doesn't matter. They're going to be nervous about when's the first dance happening, when's the cake cutting happening, will my photography be ready to go, will my DJ get the guests up on the dance floor. But if you can build that confidence and trust over 18 months, then you don't have that problem anymore. So it's nice to be able to see the development and kind of like the integration from music to client services. And so I find that that's probably the biggest difference. When it comes to training, we're focused less on new music that comes out and more about reading the crowd, more about knowing what to play after a particular song and doing our best to get requests in a manner that doesn't destroy our dance floor. It doesn't kind of make them look at you all weird that you just played this song along with that song. So there's less of a focus on collecting music, because it's so easy to get music now, and more of a focus on all the intangibles, as I call
yeah, playing the right song at the right time, because if the crowds if if the crowd or the people in there are all a little sleepy, you need some juice.
That's right. And you got to power them up. And the same thing holds true at Fenway South. I mean, the fact is, when we were sitting there trying to come back, if you were trying to come back, it's like you want to make sure that you're playing comeback music. Try to get the players hyped, try to get the crowd hyped as much as possible, with the limitations on size, but be able to get them as much energy as possible to give them some sort of a home field advantage.
Yeah, so talk about some of the events you've done, because I've heard you've been like the opening act for a lot of famous
Yeah. Wow.
singers and comedians.
Well, not so much comedians, but definitely a lot of artists. We've opened for the likes of in Massachusetts, let's see, in Massachusetts, Debbie Gibson, Lisa, Tiffany, uh, the Archies, and that was in Las Vegas. But we do the '80s prom every year for WXLO, which is 104.5 in Worcester. It's the second largest FM radio station in the state of Massachusetts. I've done fantasy casino tables and opened down at the Kiss concert down in Mansfield. In Las Vegas, I've opened for Chubby Checker and Tone Loc, Coolio, Vanilla Ice, CNC Music Factory. As a matter of fact, Freedom Williams, who is the lead rapper from CNC Music Factory, he actually now calls me his Framingham brother, because he was actually going to Framingham himself when I was in Framingham, Massachusetts. And so he doesn't even know my name, but I've worked with him 3 times. So when I walk in now, he recognizes me. He goes, "Hey, my Framingham brother," which is kind of cool that, somebody that I actually kind of, saw the year after my grad night. And he was running grad night at the main stage at Disney World in 1991. And in 92, I mean, I'm sitting there going to grad night as a guest, and now I'm opening for him 20 something years later. So that was kind of cool to be able to say. It doesn't happen all that often, but we've met a lot of really great acts over the years, and they're so spectacular. They're people who have talent, but more than talent, they also have personality, and they're very accommodating. I mean, I watched Chubby Checker, for example, sign autographs with DJs at a DJ convention for hours after the show was over. And we're talking, the show was over at like midnight, and he was signing autographs and taking pictures late into the night. And this is a guy who, at the time, had to be close to 80 years old, and he was still going strong on the main stage. So they have talent, and they've been around for a long time for a reason. So I'm just honored to be able to be up on stage with them, just getting the crowd hyped before they come on.
Yeah, so what sports arenas, facilities have you performed in? Because obviously in Boston, I think of Fenway Park, Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots play, but what other venues have you performed?
Sure. Well, most of my events are done either corporate, or they are done with through private events. So I've worked at Fenway Park numerous times for mostly bar mitzvahs and corporate events. I don't actually work for I haven't actually worked for the Red Sox up there. I've worked at Gillette Stadium many times, again, for corporate events. I've done sickle cell anemia casino night for the McCourty twins over in Boston, a nightclub, raised a lot of money for their charity. We had times where we had stand-up blackjack tables that hold 6 people, and I had 3 D linemen on the blackjack table, and they're like shoulder to shoulder. These are the largest human beings you'll ever see in your life. And the table that holds 6 only held 3 of these guys, which was kind of crazy. But from arena standpoint, I would say that Fenway, the DCU Center in Worcester is another one that I've worked on numerous occasions, and Gillette Stadium. We've been there more times than I can count. But most of them are private events, not necessarily for the sports teams themselves.
Almost like an add-on, like if somebody, like if ex-performer or ex-performers were performing, you would be there while getting the crowd energized for
Right. Gillette, we had one time specifically in Gillette Stadium that I was able to do that. But prior to, with the exception of that one, it's more like we've been on the right field concourse, the left field concourse at Fenway, or in one of the private clubs like the EMC Club, or what was the 406 Club at Fenway Park, the Fidelity Clubs that they have at Gillette Stadium. A lot of VIP areas that we've had, a lot of political VIP areas as well that happened behind the convention center during one of the inaugurations. The Mighty Mighty Bosstones was on the main stage for one of the governor's inaugurations, and I'm doing a VIP room for the governor's daughters and all of her friends. So, you know, there have been some pretty elaborate things. It just, after so many years of doing this, they start to jumble up in my head to figure out, okay, which ones have I been to, and try to come up with a list of them off the top of my head. It just starts to become a fog because there's just so many.
Yeah, so in a typical non-pandemic year, how many events would you do over a 365-day?
Close to 300 we'll send out in the company. I'll do about 100 to 120 of those events myself. I'll personally attend 100 to 120. My team that I have is really like a family. They're fantastic, and I give them a ton of credit, whether it's my MCs, Brad and Jim, or all the way down to like the dancers and the technicians. And the fact is that, you know, whether it's Nick or Danielle or Orlando or Ani, you know, I've got the DJs and you know, these guys are just fantastic individuals. And if I couldn't do my job right if they weren't doing their job. And so, you know, they're just so great at everything they do. You know, I mean, Kyle, a DJ of mine, came on, and I mean, he's just gung ho 100% of the time. He's like, let's go. I want to DJ. Let's party it up. So, you know, he's the type of guy you want to have back behind the system playing music while one of the MCs is out there on the floor. So, I mean, they're just an incredible bunch. And, you know, I've even during the pandemic, I've had some of my DJs reach out to me and say they can't wait to get back to work. So luckily, when I get back to Massachusetts, at least they're starting to open up, and we'll be able to get back to you know, going. So, you know, I'm ready to call up, you know, my DJs like Molly and Lorenzo and say, let's go. It's party time. It's game on. So let's rock and roll.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about how the pandemic has changed your livelihood in a sec. But obviously, as a DJ, music's your thing right now. But one act you got to see in person was Michael Jackson. Yes, Michael Jackson at, what was it, Madison Square Garden?
MSG. I was at Madison Square Garden, 15th row, center stage. We had the teleprompter to my left because they had different acts that came on and sang Jackson 5 songs and Michael Jackson songs. And I'm watching Peebo Bryson read the teleprompter to my left, and it took all my effort to not jump in front of the teleprompter and go, you know, it just basically freaked them out. But I controlled myself. But that was pretty amazing. Seeing Michael Jackson in person is something that they'll never be able to take away from me. And, you know, now on, I mean, nobody else can say that they've seen him live. So whether it's Michael Jackson or Garth Brooks, Kenny Chesney, I mean, I've had the luxury of seeing some pretty incredible acts over the years. And, you know, and to have experiences, I think buying travel and experiences is better than buying actual goods or items to own in your house or whatever. So I spend a lot of money and a lot of resources on travel and experiences.
Speaking of travel, obviously you think of the pandemic and shutting down. And how has the pandemic affected your company?
Well, we lost 94% of revenue in 2020, so we got devastated from a business standpoint last year. What I call my last real event in Massachusetts took place on March 6th of 2020. Luckily, I've got events really geared up to go, in May 8th we start up again. But we got blasted. So I'm sitting there in the summer, I'm doing projects outside of my house. But once I got to July, I said, forget this. I'm like, I'm traveling, let's go. And so my girlfriend and myself and my daughter on many occasions, you know, we would hop on a plane up into Disney World, I don't know, 8 times or 10 times since July. We went to Aruba, we went to St. Martin. It was amazing. We got some of the best travel deals you can imagine. It was more social distancing you can ever imagine. I mean, I went to these islands in Aruba and St. Martin, and we're like the only ones. We had the whole beach or the whole pool to ourselves. And I mean, it looked like a dinner in Aruba. We had an open air dinner next to the pool, and it looked like a scene out of The Bachelor. It was one table with just her, and myself, and we have our two waiters, and we got a waterfall to our side, and the beach is off to the distance, and the pool's all lit up in blue, and we're having dinner together, and it looked like a scene out of The Bachelor. You couldn't have that in a non-pandemic year. It was the most amazing time to travel for us, starting in July. The only difference was we had to get COVID tested everywhere we went, and we had to wear masks. But besides that, I had the best time traveling from July of 2020 till now.
Yeah, and those sweet deals. Obviously, I bet the airlines were just happy to have people on their flights.
Thrilled.
I mean, you probably got some deals for what,
Oh, I got
30,
deals.
40
I
bucks?
got I got deals everywhere, man. We went. I mean, I was getting round trip tickets for $70 to Orlando. I got buy one get one free to Aruba, where an entire week in Aruba cost us less than $1,500 for literally hotel room, hotel transfers, and two round trip tickets. Uh, St. Martin was uber cheap. I mean, and we often was the case where we had virtually the whole plane to ourselves. I remember one time I counted an entire plane that had 21 passengers on it, which was incredible. So people are like, oh, you're going to catch COVID on a plane. How? There's like 6 rows in front of us without a person, 6 rows behind us without a person, nobody to the left and right of us. We had the whole row. We'd put up the armrest. She'd sleep on me the whole time. So, I mean, most of the time it was like that. It's not like that anymore. Now it's kind of filling up. But back in, November or October, it was an incredible time to fly. I was loving it.
Yeah, but obviously in Massachusetts, I mean, you dealt with more. You dealt with that hard with a big time pandemic this time last year, and obviously your state was shut down.
Yeah, we were pretty tight. I'm not really happy with the actions of the governor over the years. Even when the numbers were so low in the summer months, they opened up some of the events for 25 people indoors, 50 people outdoors. We couldn't have a dance floor, and we couldn't have a bar. Like, what's the point of having a DJ? What's the point of even having a wedding if you can't even have a DJ there? It's one thing to have your wait staff serving drinks to the guests at their tables, but to not even have a dance floor where people could have a big floor, a few people here, a few people there, a few people here, and have a dance floor, then you don't have a celebration. You just flat out don't have a celebration without a dance floor. We learned that in September and October, and it was just, we made the best of it. Had people dancing behind their chairs at tables where there was no dance floor. And, we did the best we could. But even then, we only had 7 events from March to the end of the year, 7 actual physical events. We had to modify and do corporate events through virtual, through Zoom. We had virtual dance parties with little kids in schools, and it just wasn't even close to being the same. So I can't wait for this thing to be over. I want to get back to partying, and at least as of March 22nd, a few days ago, we now have at least a dance floor open with 100 people indoors, 150 outdoors, but only at catered events. You can't go out to a bar, you can't go out to a restaurant and have an open dance floor yet. So if people want to have a dance floor, the only place they can have it is in an actual event. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a lot of last minute events once I get back next week, and really being able to show people how to have a good time again.
Yeah, and one place you and I have been having a good time as spring training, and has it been unusual actually seeing fans for the first time in forever? It seems
Forever. Yeah, it's been very weird. I mean, to sit there and watch these pods around the stadium has been kind of unusual, but to actually have fans in the stands where, I mean, up until this week, we'd watch a basketball game all season and there's nobody in the fans. I mean, you watched the playoffs last year and you had these video screens all over, and it just looked so strange. It looked like something out of, 2021, 2100 or 2200, where everything is done virtually. I mean, the human beings are made to, we're genetically predisposed to be pack animals, being with each other. So there's a whole lot of health issues, and there's a whole lot of psyche issues that have really manifested itself this last year by people being so isolated from each other. So to have fans together, it's nice to be able to see, and I can't wait for them to really open it up even further and have, the stands full again, and basically be able to cheer on your favorite team to victory.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most unusual part of seeing games in spring training is when you and I play Sweet Caroline and it goes hands touching hands. I'm like, we can't do this
Can't
anymore.
touch hands. Can't touch hands in that, especially, I mean, you've got your pod, so you can touch hands with only the people in your pod, right? So if that pod's two people, you're touching two hands with two hands. That's it.
Yeah, you imagine how many COVID laws we be breaking in Massachusetts. The
Uh,
first time they play Sweet Caroline, we'd all be in trouble, right?
well, they're going to have 12,000 people there coming up next week, so they'll have at least some. But it's one of those things where they've just been really slow in opening this process, and I hope this vaccine gets out faster than they expect because the faster it gets out, the faster we get back to life.
Yeah, and the faster we can have full crowds and no masks, and actually meet people instead of
And
meet people on Zoom.
I know, completely different experience, and you can
So,
actually see facial expressions again.
so one song that's really going a lot of attention at Swing Train is when, as after the Red Sox win, you play.
I play Dirty Water. That's the start. Get them fired up, and then after that, we'll play them another song to see them on their way out. But we've had a lot of opportunities to play Dirty Water this spring training. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Red Sox. Other than what that first game, the Red Sox went on a big time winning streak at JetBlue, and then all of a sudden they lost Sunday and lost last night.
Yeah, yeah, and they almost got that comeback yesterday, which would have been nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So
we've had walk off home runs. I
Marco
mean,
Chavis.
yeah, major league grand slams that you've called. Walking right out. It's like walk right out, Dylan. If he hits a grand slam right now, I'm walking out. He hits a grand slam. Bye, Dylan. See ya.
I
You've
can
seen it.
I can attest. I have called 3 grand slams in the last couple of weeks. Two by Bobby Dalbec, and I think the other one was by Geddes.
Think so. Yeah.
I think like
Out of the blue, like you pulled it out. Like you pulled it out of somewhere where I don't know where you pulled that one out from, but then all of a sudden he just rips it. And it was 2 seconds after you called it. He goes, he's going to hit a grand slam right now. And then literally the next pitch, 2 seconds later, gone. I'm like, what? You floored everybody in the booth, man.
so. Obviously, when you think of the 2021 MLB season, do you think the Red Sox possess a chance at making the playoffs? I mean, obviously, I don't know if you heard the news, but Eduardo Rodriguez is not starting opening day.
Mhm.
Nathan Eovaldi will start next week.
I didn't hear that till you just told me, but I can tell you that the Red Sox need to make sure that their pitching is lined up. I think from an offensive perspective, they're good, but opening day historically has brought hope to every team. And baseball is a funny sport. It's not exactly like basketball, where you need to have that one superstar to win. It's more in lines of football than anything else. And really, when you're going into a year, making the playoffs, sure. I mean, we saw the Florida Marlins almost make the playoffs a couple of years ago, and they're terrible. So, the fact is the Red Sox certainly stand a chance. If their pitching can hold up, their offense will certainly be there. I like some of the additions that were made over the offseason, and we'll see what happens. I mean, heck, Purcell could actually contribute this year as we go to the end of the year. So
Well,
uh, there's possibilities there.
yeah, you imagine the Red Sox were in contention and they asked, well, why aren't the Red Sox making a trade deadline acquisition? Oh, wait, Chris Sales would be a de facto trade deadline acquisition if he's
Yeah,
healthy off TJ.
yeah. And honestly, Bloom did a great job in Tampa, playing with short money, playing small ball. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with him, with what he does, because he's replenished the farm system over the course of this winter. He has resources now that he didn't have before. The luxury tax has been reset. So let's give this guy a chance and see what he has to prove.
I mean, Andrew Freeman's done a half decent job with the Dodgers. Maybe Bloom would be Freeman East Coast, right?
Well, Dodgers have been there pretty much every year.
Yeah, and
That was
they finally won a World Series in 2020. At seeing the Dodgers play games in Arlington, Texas, didn't make any sense last year, but
But Texas doesn't make all that much sense to me anyway.
except now I think the whole state is open, but
Open, 100% at Ranger Stadium.
100% capacity in Arlington this year.
Yeah, crazy. Which I'm like, hey, great, let's do it. Finally, let's roll it out and open it up. I'm all for that.
So finally, what's the rest of 2021 looking for you? Do you think you'll be busy, or will it be wait and see?
Well, I'm actually hopefully optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. We've got clients in May that are just geared up. I've got schools ready to throw some level of a prom, even if it might not be a prom itself. They're going to throw different things like movie nights, night under the stars. They're doing a lot of different tenting of events. The summer corporate events are starting to come in the summer, so those are done outdoors. And if this thing is fully opened up by July, I fully expect that the fall and the winter should have a big influx of corporate events inside of Massachusetts. So New Hampshire's already ready to go. It's the Wild West in New Hampshire anyway. It's kind of been that way. Live free or die, as they say. So New Hampshire's ready to roll. Rhode Island, I think, is going to follow suit shortly. Connecticut is opening up. Connecticut's got some really strange rules, but Connecticut is opening up with COVID testing for weddings, kind of like New York is. So I'm really expecting that over the next couple of months, more and more of the economy and everything's going to open. You're talking about in events, $8 billion industry that basically has been shut down. All those tax dollars aren't going to the state. They're not going to the federal government. They have to open us up. They can't keep it shut down for that much longer. And I think it's all going to boil down to hospitalizations, ICUs, and deaths. Those numbers are down. The COVID numbers for those getting COVID aren't going to matter because it's only going to come down to hospitalizations, ICUs. So I'm foreseeing a very strong second half of 2021.
And if these vaccines all working and people are being vaccinated, particularly the elderly and the people who have underlying conditions, I think you're saying July, heck, I think Memorial Day even, we'll see.
I'm all for it.
We'll see, hopefully, a normal season. And hopefully we'll see full crowds at Fenway, Gillette, everywhere.
Love it. As long as if they go to full crowds in those places, that means I'm 100% back up to work. And the faster that happens, the faster it'll be.
And that means I can see all my people at sport events, right?
That's right. And think about it. No, you get to limit your Purell consumption.
Oh gosh. Yeah, no hand sanitizer, and most importantly, no masks.
No masks. Can't wait for that day. So that'd be awesome.
So thank you for thank you for playing your tunes, and we'll see you a couple more times at JetBlue Sunday against the Minnesota Twins and Tuesday against the Atlanta Braves, Ken.
And I hope you get your Dippin' Dots on Sunday.
Oh, I'm getting them Tuesday.
Tuesday. There you go. Good to talk to you, Dylan. I'll see you on Sunday, brother.
Thank you.